In the news articles, I saw like a corner of this, but not the whole thing.
Really, this is the first time publicly it's being shown clearly.
This is the first time the world has seen this in 1,400 years.
Yep. Amazing, isn't it?
Huh. It's unreal.
Every once in a while, the Earth reveals something so astonishing that it feels like a doorway has opened between our time and the ancient world. That's exactly what happened near the Sea of Galilee, where archaeologists uncovered a discovery so rare, so electrifying, that it sent shockwaves through the entire world of biblical history. It's the kind of find that makes you stop, stare, and wonder, how could something this important stay hidden for 1,500 years? What emerged from the soil isn't just history. It's a secret tied directly to Jesus, and spoken to one of his closest followers in a way that no one expected. And once you hear what was found, you'll feel the same chill that ran through the excavation team. Before we go deeper, kindly subscribe to our channel so you never miss breathtaking discoveries like this one.
I'm not a religious person, and I'm not a Christian, but I think that when I have Christians visiting the place and I show them the inscription and I show them the houses from the first century, I can feel the emotions.
Our journey begins in the quiet archaeological site of Al-Araj, a location believed by many scholars to be the biblical city of Betsaida, home of the apostles Peter, Andrew, and Philip. Here, for years, excavations yielded fragments of ancient life, pottery, coins, small remnants of long-gone households. But beneath those scattered traces lay something far more significant. The ruins of a once grand Byzantine church, which tradition links directly to Saint Peter, the fisherman who became the foundation stone of the early Christian faith. Betsaida, mentioned several times in the Gospels, was no ordinary fishing village. It was the backdrop of miracles. It was here that Jesus healed the blind man in Mark chapter 8, verse 22. And it was the home of men who would become pillars of the early church. To stand here is to breathe the same air, touch the same soil, and walk where the earliest disciples walked. So when archaeologists uncovered the threshold of the ancient church, the alleged Church of the Apostles, a wave of anticipation swept through the academic world. What would they find? What stories still slumbered beneath the floor? The answer came slowly, but when it came, it shook the silence of 1,500 years. As teams carefully removed hardened soil and debris, they discovered a stunningly preserved mosaic. Vibrant stones, still carrying their original color, emerged like a sunrise from the earth. It was the diaconicon floor, the chamber often used to store sacred vessels and vestments. But this mosaic was not merely decorative. It carried words carved with reverence, words intended to honor someone deeply loved by early Christians, words that felt like a message preserved by time itself. The inscription read, "The whole work of paving the diaconicon with mosaic was completed by the zeal of Constantine, servant of Christ, for the chief of the apostles and the holder of the keys of the heavenly kingdom. Saint Peter, intercede for him and his children." This was not a casual dedication. It was a proclamation. A declaration that this place was sacred to Peter, the apostle Jesus himself, called the rock upon which the church would stand. And then, like a soft echo rising from the past, the biblical words tied to this dedication came rushing back. "And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Matthew chapter 16, verse 19. This verse is one of the most profound moments in the New Testament, a moment where Jesus speaks directly to Peter, granting him divine authority and commissioning him as a leader of his followers. Yet now, in the dust of Al-Araj, the echo was no longer only spiritual, it had become physical, tangible, a message carved in stone. Why would a high-ranking Christian patron, likely a 6th century figure named Constantine, not to be confused with Constantine the Great, commission such an inscription? Why dedicate this space specifically to Peter? The answer lies in the early church's reverence for the apostle. Peter was not only one of the first to follow Jesus, he was the first to declare him the Messiah. Matthew chapter 16, verse 16. He was the one who stepped out onto water in a moment of faith. He was the one restored by Jesus after denying him 3 times. Peter's journey was the story of humanity, messy, flawed, courageous, and redeemed. Early Christians did not forget this. They celebrated it. The Mosaic's words, chief of the apostles and holder of the keys of the heavenly kingdom, are titles of immense honor. They indicate the deep respect early believers held for Peter, viewing him as the gateway through which spiritual authority flowed. By asking for Peter's intercession for him and his children, Constantine acknowledged a belief shared by millions of Christians across ages, that the saints remain alive in Christ, participating in the spiritual life of the faithful. The inscription is not merely historical. It is devotional, emotional. It expresses a relationship between heaven and earth, between the living and the dead, between faith and the mysteries that lie beyond our sight. Imagine standing in that dimly lit chamber 1,500 years ago. The incense burns slowly. The golden candlelight shimmers across the mosaic floor. Priests gather to prepare sacred vessels for Eucharistic celebration. Every step echoes with reverence. Above them hangs the memory of Peter, not as a distant legend, but as a living presence. That is the environment in which the inscription was read, the words whispered, the prayer offered. It was a sacred place, where earth brushed against heaven, where believers felt connected to the earliest roots of their faith. And now, centuries later, those same stones breathe again. For decades, scholars searched for the lost Church of the Apostles, a structure described by early pilgrims as built over the house of Peter and Andrew. Could the Al-Araj site be that church? Evidence began to align. Thick church walls, the architectural design, the period of construction, the dedication to Peter. All of these matched descriptions from early Christian writings. Although the final verdict is still being shaped by ongoing research, many archaeologists now believe strongly that the Mosaic, and the church it belongs to, stands atop or near the home of Peter himself. If true, then we are not just reading words dedicated to Peter. We may be standing in the same space where Peter lived, prayed, and listened to Jesus speak. The ground becomes holy, not metaphorically, but historically. The beauty of the discovery does not lie only in the mosaic itself, but in the divine moment it symbolizes. When Jesus spoke to Peter in Matthew 16:19, he wasn't giving him a physical set of keys. He was giving him responsibility, authority, and trust. And those words, once spoken on the dusty roads of Caesarea Philippi, traveled across continents, through centuries, through persecution and war, through the rise and fall of empires, until they rested here, immortalized in stone by believers who lived nearly 1,000 years after Peter's death. As the Mosaic continues to be studied, interpreted, and shared, its message grows louder. It is not the voice of Constantine or even the Byzantine builders. It is the echo of Jesus and Peter, their relationship, their legacy, and the continuation of their story. For centuries, the earth hid this message, protecting it, preserving it, waiting for the right moment. Now it has risen. A whisper from the dust, a reminder from the past, a call to look deeper, listen closer, and remember that faith is not only written in books, it is carved in stone, buried in the earth, and waiting for us to uncover again and again. And that is the story of how archaeologists uncovered Jesus' secret words to Peter. Words so powerful that even time itself could not silence them.